Mark Levin here. Our number 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. As you know, we spent some time on the Manafort trial, and we all know why Manafort is in the dock. And it's because he was Trump's campaign manager for 4 or 5 months. All these allegations against him occurred before he was Trump's campaign manager. They occurred when Mr. Mueller, the special counsel, was the FBI director. Think about that. But now it all comes to a head. Why? It's a disgrace. This isn't even part of the special counsel's original mandate. It's expanded to include responsibility. I'm telling you, this is the Achilles heel. Professor Calabresi and I are correct. This is the Achilles heel. The more power he has, the more he acts like a United States attorney, the more it is clear that it's a violation of the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. Now, today at Pearl Harbor, 55 coffins with remains in them from American heroes were returned to the United States. And there'll be extensive DNA testing to determine exactly who these heroes are. There are over 7,000 missing in the Korean War. I can never forgive the family that runs that country for what they did. Never. And what they're doing today. But in honor of those who perished, and those whose names we don't know really yet, who were returned today, God bless America. Go ahead.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
That song does it for me every time, the way that it is sung. And when you watch those 55 caskets, as I did during the break, it breaks your heart. This is why you need an incredibly powerful military, the most powerful on the face of the earth. This is not up for debate. And I'm sick and tired of people who view us as imperialists, as colonialists, that we start wars. These are people who've never gone to war, who've never had family members go to war, who've never had family members with horrific casualties who've died in war. And I'm sorry to say this is a growing mentality within the Republican Party, the Code Pink Republicans. And I reject it completely. And I will continue to reject it. When we show power, when we show might, our enemies fold. We are not imperialists. We are not colonialists. If we were, we'd own half the globe now. We would conquer Central and South America. If we were, Canada would be a 51st state. If we were, Cuba will be an American island. If we were, much of Europe would be under our control, the way the Soviets had much of Europe under their control. I'm sick and tired of this country being put down. I really am. Not talking about the federal government. I'm sick and tired of this country being put down. Understand, when this country's put down, they're intending to put down the American people. This is why, when these multimillionaire, pampered sports athletes take a knee, you and me are disgusted. Because we think about those men and women. We think about those caskets that came off the plane. We think about what goes on in a foxhole in combat. Because we've had family members, or in some cases, many of you have actually done it. And to watch, I watched this LeBron James interview. The man is among the most popular people in the country. He's extraordinarily wealthy, playing basketball. He hasn't done anything to protect this country. He hasn't done anything to protect this country. He talks, and most of us haven't, and he talks about the president dividing us. No, Mr. James, it's your colleagues in the sports world taking a knee. They've divided us. It's your hero, Barack Obama. He divided us. It's your political party that lives on division, balkanization, tribalization, that has divided us. It is your party, the party of slavery 150 years ago, the party of segregation 50 years ago, the party of democratic socialism today that divides the country. See, Mr. James, we are not a racist country. You should be listening to Shelby Steele and others who make the case over and over again. We are all free in this country, all of us. The hard work's been done. The Civil War's been fought. The Civil Rights Movement was fought. We're a free people. Embrace it. Embrace it. There's this debate that goes on all the ESPN channels from time to time on whether LeBron James is the greatest basketball player ever or Michael Jordan. And it's hands down Michael Jordan. You want to know why? Because Michael Jordan understands the American people better than LeBron James. Being the greatest anything means being great in every way. Not just on the court, and people can debate the stats and debate the era and so forth, but it's off the court too. LeBron James is a leftist, and he wants you to know about it. And he can't stand Trump, and he wants you to know about it. I believe Michael Jordan is a liberal and he's a Democrat. I know he liked to play golf with Obama, but I don't know much else about his politics. That's why he was the greatest basketball player ever. His skills on and off the court. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
And David Harsanyi is a senior editor there, writes very brilliantly over there. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, everybody's stealing from your post today, which always annoys me. They're using a lot of the information you presented in there, a lot that I didn't know. And what am I talking about, America? I'm talking about this so-called 3D gun. And when you listen to the media, somebody can just have a 3D printer, boom, and they can print out guns. And I'm going, what the hell are they talking about? What the hell are they talking about?
Well, they want to make it seem like you can just buy this printer and that just, magically a gun will appear for you, which I'm not sure is a totally bad idea, but it doesn't exist yet. We don't have the technology for that. What they're talking about is merely some code and designs essentially to make guns with a 3D printer. It sounds simple, but it still takes a lot of skill and a lot of time to actually build one of these guns, which is completely legal and always has been legal. Americans have been building guns in their homes since the 1600s. But they want to make it sound like it's illegal, yeah.
And they say it's all plastic. It's not all plastic, is it?
No, an all-plastic gun won't really work. I mean, there are metal components in these guns. They're not undetectable ghost guns that no one can see. And also, even if they were, it's not like you can take one on a plane. You really don't use metal detectors. And on top of all of that, it's illegal to make an undetectable gun already. There is already a law in the book since 1988 that says you cannot make a gun that can go through a metal detector, so a plastic gun.
So it's illegal to make a non-detectable gun.
Yes.
It is a detectable gun.
Yes.
And it's not easy to make because, first of all, how much are these 3D printers?
Thousands of dollars. And not just that, you need all the tools to mill out the pieces and things like that. So you would have to spend thousands of dollars on this. And incidentally, a person who is prohibited from having a gun is prohibited from making one already. So essentially, there are already laws on the books for this. This is nothing new. If someone makes a gun who shouldn't be, they're breaking the law already.
So what's going on here? They want to prevent people from making guns? Is that pretty much it?
I mean, my theory is that they see that this is the future, because the fact of the matter is that technology moves forward. We're probably going to one day have 3D printers that can help you make a gun easier, and people will have their Second Amendment rights will be easier to attain, obviously, but they see this as a threat, so they want to get ahead of it. On the second, and another thing that they're doing, obviously, is scaremongering and fear-mongering just generally about guns. I think they want to scare people all the time, and this is just sort of the flavor of the month for them.
And tell me, what will these plastic guns shoot? Plastic bullets?
They have hard plastic sort of shells. It depends which ones. I mean, some of them you can get a design for an AR-15 and use, just ammunition that is used in a normal AR-15. People build guns like this all the time at home.
But that's my point. When you have let's say it's an all-plastic gun, you still have to put bullets in it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it has to be metal. You couldn't really shoot a gun like this without some metal components to hold it together. It's just, and by the way, I mean, I don't know how many crimes have been committed. I couldn't find any statistics on this, but certainly there hasn't been sort of an outbreak of plastic guns being used across the country. I don't think anyone thinks, listen, a criminal can just go and have a straw purchase or find a gun in another way, and that's how they usually do it.
Well, speaking of straws, what's more dangerous, a plastic gun that's not really plastic or a plastic straw? What's more dangerous?
Well, if printers could make straws, then they'd really have a problem there in California.
I'm waiting for them to outlaw that, too.
Right. Well, listen, I mean, they're scared of guns, so anything that has to do with guns. Listen, they call it 3D guns and downloadable guns. You're not actually downloading a gun. These are just plans, which I wanted to mention. This is a First Amendment issue, not a gun issue.
Now, why is that?
Because these are just code. You're just essentially sending code over the Internet. You're just downloading code. The reason they banned this was because there was some convoluted way that the Obama administration said that this was sort of sending out international arms to other countries that had nothing to do with the actual 3D printer or the gun here domestically. So it was an issue of code, not a gun. It has nothing to do with the gun. You can build a gun at home. It's completely legal. It always has been.
You can build a non-plastic gun at home.
You can build, yeah. People do all the time.
Well, let me ask you this. We just had a federal judge intervene and basically prevent the selling of these codes to the public. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's just
pretty shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just authoritarian, really. I mean, it's just one judge decides. that this speech, because the guns are scary to him, or he doesn't like the idea that this code, even though the federal government has settled with the person that they were after, cannot be on the internet. It's unimaginable. It wouldn't happen in any other sort of speech case, and yet the ACLU is nowhere to be found. The journalists who are constantly sanctimoniously talking about the end of free speech are nowhere to be found. It's a real problem, and I hope it continues to go to higher courts and maybe one day to the Supreme Court. These sorts of cases.
I just think the propaganda is winning the day here, and it's happening way too often in this country, particularly when it comes to guns. And as a matter of fact, you're kind of an expert on guns here. It says here that you have a book coming out called "First Freedom: A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun from the Revolution to Today." I suspect you're not going to be invited on, Meet the Press or anything like that.
I'm afraid not, no, but thankfully there are shows like this. So,
all right, keep up the good work. I enjoy reading you, and I enjoy your site.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, take care. We'll be right back.
Great again. Dial in now. 877-381-3811.
So another phony issue that I guess we're going to spend 3 weeks on with the media, the 3D gun. Just have a printer. Just make it. Actually, that's not how it works. And speaking of these judges and the courts, a U.S. appeals court, that would be the Ninth Circuit, ruled that President Trump's executive order threatening to withhold funding from sanctuary cities is unconstitutional. That is an outrage. There's nothing unconstitutional about it. The federal executive branch has been doing that to states left and right to impose its will on education, on agriculture, on the environment, you name it, withholding funds. But because it's President Trump and because it deals with sanctuary cities, we have a 2-1 vote on a panel of judges on the Ninth Circuit. This is why the courts are like the media now. They're disreputable. They're unprofessional. They're biased. They're political. That should be a 3-0 vote. That's easy. This has been going on for decades. We've talked about it. I've written about it. How the federal government's able to, quote-unquote, blackmail states. Except, of course, when it works the other way around. That is, when you have a president who's actually trying to enforce the immigration laws. We had a Supreme Court decision 5-4, written by Justice Kennedy. Not the great Justice Kennedy, just Justice Kennedy. Not so great. In which he essentially said that the president has plenary power when it comes to making decisions about immigration and so forth. Okay, apparently every president except Trump. Ridiculous. It's the middle of the night. You're tossing. I don't even want to think about their ages. It gets me upset. But they're doing fine right now. Anyway. Much has been said, particularly at CNN, about the crowd, the audience in Tampa, Florida, who attended the Ron DeSantis event held by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. As you all know, in Florida, I have endorsed Ron DeSantis for the Republican nomination and for the governorship of Florida. Well, Mark, you live in Virginia. No, I also have a place in Florida. And my parents are in Florida. It means a lot to me. And this guy, Adam Putman, is a fraud. DeSantis is the real deal. That's why I went down there and campaigned for him. I rarely do that. And so CNN is there, and particularly Jim Acosta, who is a reprobate. And the crowd sees CNN, and they see Acosta. And, of course, according to CNN, freedom of the press, that is, freedom of leftists on CNN trumps freedom of speech. So here's the crowd chanting, CNN sucks. Cut 11, go.
The White House closed out the month of July without holding a briefing for reporters today. That means the White House has held only 3 briefings for the press this month and 8 total since the end of May. There is no other way to describe what the White House is doing these days. Wolf, top officials, including the president, are hiding from the press. And Wolf, just to give you a sense as to what's happening right now, you can hear there is a chorus of boos and other chants from this Trump crowd here in Tampa, Florida. They're saying things like CNN sucks, go home, and fake news. Wolf, obviously, all of of those things are false. We're staying right here. We're going to do our job and report on this rally to all of our viewers here tonight. Wolf.
I actually enjoyed that. Can we play that again, Mr. Producer? Cut 11. Go.
The White House closed out the month of July without holding a briefing for reporters today. That means the White House has held only 3 briefings for the press this month and 8 total since the end of May. There is no other way to describe what the White House is doing these days. Wolf, top officials, including the president, are hiding from the press. And Wolf, just to give you a sense as to what's happening right now, you can hear there is a chorus of boos and other chants from this Trump crowd.
No. There's a chorus of CNN sucks. Get it straight. Because CNN does suck. Go ahead.
Go home and fake news. Wolf, obviously, all of those things are false. We're staying right here. We're going to do our job and report on this rally.
Wow, you're so brave, Jim Acosta. Wow. Like you're in a military zone. Oh, you're a brave one, that Jim Acosta, isn't he, ladies and gentlemen? You know, Wolf, we're going to do our job. We're going to stay right here. My God, we're going to put up. Oh, yes, we are, Wolf. Yes, we are. What a schmuck. He's not a reporter. He's an idiot. Jim Acosta. And Sarah Sanders was asked about this today, of course, because the purpose of these press briefings, according to the press, is the press, not the American people, not informing the American people. We already know what they would ask. Hey, what do you think of the Manafort trial? Hey, didn't you obstruct justice with your tweet? Hey, what about this? And shouldn't you go to jail? Shouldn't you go directly to jail? Can't a president be indicted? Hey, tell us. That's your press. Cut 12, go.
First of all, does the president encourage the support of people who showed up last night in these QAnon and Blacks for Trump fringe groups? And secondly, is the White House willing to say right now, in view of what happened with one of
Let's stop here. Was Obama ever asked about encouraging violence? Ever? In Baltimore? Or that town outside of St. Louis? Ever? When the police were shot, was anyone in his administration ever asked if their comments were insufficiently strong in response to these attacks on our cops? No. But this reporter, he's really hyped up. He's got a real frenzy, and he's a real reporter here. And he's not going to be pushed around. He's not going to be bullied. He's going to ask. He wants to get to the bottom of it. Go ahead.
Last night, that it is wrong for his most vocal supporters to be menacing toward journalists doing their jobs in a situation like that or in any situation?
On the first part, the president condemns and denounces any group that would incite violence against another individual, and certainly doesn't support groups that would promote that type of behavior. We've been clear about that a number of times since the beginning.
How come, Mr. Reporter, you didn't ask Ms. Sanders about the attacks on Trump supporters all around the country? How come you didn't ask that, pal? We know why, because you're a clown. Go ahead.
Administration. On the second part of your question, the president, as I just said, does not support violence against anyone or anything, and we've been very clear every single time we've been asked about that.
And why are you asking such a stupid question, pal? Go ahead.
Comes to the media, the president does think that the media holds a responsibility. We fully support a free press, but there also comes a high level of responsibility with that. The media routinely reports on classified information and government secrets that put lives in danger and risk valuable.
Now, we know that's true because Obama sicked the FBI on them. Remember that, Mr. Reporter? Maybe you don't remember that. I remember that. The FBI. And you know who was running the FBI at the time, Mr. Producer? Mr. Mueller, as I recall. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Security tools. This has happened both in our administration and in past administrations. One of the worst cases was the reporting on the U.S. ability to listen to Osama bin Laden's satellite phone in the late 90s. Because of that reporting, he stopped using that phone and the country lost valuable intelligence. Unfortunately, it's now standard to abandon common sense ethical practices. This is a two-way street. We certainly support...
You know, with all due respect, Sarah, you know you're talking to a zombie, right? This is not penetrating his brain, such as it is. It's just not. It's not. He's ready to jump on the next question. None of this is going to get through to him. Go ahead.
We certainly condemn violence against anybody, but we also ask that people act responsibly and report accurately and fairly.
Sarah, nobody was being violent last night. They were trying to prevent a broadcaster from getting his broadcast out and yelling that his network sucks.
And did they prevent it? Did anybody tackle the guy? Did anybody harm the guy? Did anybody steal his equipment? No, they shouted at him. Now, that may be uncomfortable. We might not like it, but they may not like it, but that's what they did. He got his broadcast out, and he got his message out. Go ahead.
Right or wrong?
I'm sorry. What was the first part of your question?
I said no one was being violent last night in terms of hitting anybody, and no broadcaster was broadcasting state secrets. They were trying to do stand-ups at a public rally, and you had people...
Stand-ups? What do you mean, like in comedy? Go ahead.
Yell over them, preventing them from doing their jobs, and yelling that their network sucks on live TV.
Look,
does the White House support that or not?
While we certainly support freedom of the press, we also support freedom of speech, and we think that those things go hand in hand.
What do you think of that, pal? You know, there is the First Amendment. There's other parts of the First Amendment. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the don't establish a religion. I mean, freedom to assemble. There they are assembling, exercising their freedom of speech. Now, I remember when the media used to defend the Nazis who would march down a street in a Jewish community called Skokie in Skokie, Illinois. You gotta have freedom of speech. You gotta flag burns, freedom of speech. These clowns take a knee, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech all over the place. Freedom of speech. Now, when it comes to manger scenes, no, get them out of there. When it comes to people shouting at the media, no, what are you against freedom of press? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I want to tell Jim Acosta and CNN something. You people really are a joke. For the last several years now, it's been the Trump supporters who've been beaten up by Antifa. The events in San Jose 2 years ago, where a mob took off and pummeled individuals, women who couldn't defend themselves, young men who couldn't defend themselves, a mob. And you did almost nothing about it. Goes on everywhere. Went on in Hollywood. When some Trump supporters were standing and defending the star that some thug broke with a hammer, they came under attack. The left is extremely violent. It's always been violent. You can look at the anti-war protests. You can look all over the world. But the media in this country, propagandists, demagogues. Jim Acosta doesn't know violence. And I, for one, don't want to see violence. But you see it all the time from the left. CNN hasn't done any serious reporting on this, the rise of the violent left. I remember when they used to accuse us in the Tea Party of being violent. We were never violent. We never did anything violent. We didn't even leave any trash. But that's how they sought to attack us. That's how Obama sought to attack us. Yet we see violence all the time from the left in the cities that the left run. It's just appalling. Free press my ass. I wish we had a free press. I really do. I wish we had a free press. Rather than these ideological mental midgets who are all about drama and promoting themselves. Let's just be honest. Sunspots, brown spots, discoloration, and even... Let us go to James, Pasco, Washington, the great KFLD. Go.
Yeah, Mark, thank you for taking my call. I don't really want to waste your time. I do want to mention that CNN indeed does suck. And they just don't really hold people's feet to the fire. I mean, this Hillary Clinton thing, I mean, she broke the law. And
okay, let's do it this way. I read an article earlier about all the Obama Democrats who now work at CNN. Let me ask you this. Can you think of a single host on CNN who's even you would consider right of center?
None.
None.
I don't even see. I mean, And the people who and I don't like, I'm like you. I don't really care for that. I'm not conservative. I'm constitutional.
Right.
I don't need the government telling me everything twice on Sunday.
All right, buddy. The phone connection's terrible, but we got your point. I appreciate you calling, James. Let us continue. Bob, Augusta, Georgia, on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead, sir.
Mark, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I wanted to talk about these kneeling college dropouts in the NFL.
Well, they're not college dropouts. They're college graduates.
No, they're not. Many of them are dropouts. That being said, they have reached their fame through the performance on the field. They've been granted an elite status through their physical ability. And now they're taking a knee, making a political statement throughout. Most of these guys don't know the first word of the Constitution. They've not been educated in any political sphere as we know it. The same goes for actors. But the political left uses them as an example because they're entertainers.
Let me tell you how foolish all these people are, regardless of race, whether it's sports or Hollywood. How ignorant they are. They are prime examples of success in this society. It's not because they're particularly bright, although some of them are. It's not because they're particularly good-looking, although some of them are. They have taken what they have, they've taken advantage of it in a free society, and have become enormously successful. They are examples of the greatness of America.
That's positively right. It goes beyond that. They've been put in a position of leadership because of either athletic ability or performance on the screen. When you are put in a position of leadership, people look at you, whether you know it, whether you believe it or not. People take note.
All right, my friend, I appreciate it. I know you didn't get to finish. I apologize for that, but we have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers.